So one individual that was charged was Michael Williams, right? And I think Michael Williams was have been alleged to have burned up Azriel's car. You guys don't say anything. I'm just going to assume you don't want me to go through the indictments and just sort of break them down. So let me see if I can find the part where he is to have been alleged to burn her car up. Defendant Michael was together. Others did knowingly, intentionally, and maliciously damage, destroy. Yeah. So I don't know why the search didn't find this, but it's right here, right? So on or about June 11, 2020, within the Southern District of Florida, the defendant Michael Williams, together with others, did knowingly, intentionally, and maliciously damage and destroy by means of fire and explosive a vehicle used in interstate and foreign commerce and any activity used in interstate foreign commerce, right? So essentially they're saying that, you know, I don't know who Michael Williams is in the grand scheme of things. I think they're also alleging that Michael Williams is also an associate of R. Kelly. I'm not going to. And when they say Jane Doe, they didn't say Azriel. They said Jane Doe, but everyone knows the only person who is related to the R. Kelly trial who's had their car burned up is Azriel, and everyone knows that, right? And I think they also make mention in this indictment that it appeared that they also tried to burn the house down as well, right? So these are some very serious allegations, and obviously this allegation in and of itself goes way beyond putting comments on Twitter, way beyond putting comments on YouTube, so on and so forth. And one of the things I want to point it out is that we are living in a police state. All your information is available to the authorities. The only thing that's really protecting you are the laws that we have, but they can get any information that they want. Now, when you come out and you do or you say something that's going to give them cause, and they can go and get a subpoena or a search warrant to monitor you. So just to make this clear, it says previously I was assigned to the Narcotics and Counter Proliferation Squad. I am responsible for conducting and assisting in an investigation into the activities of the individual and criminal groups responsible for sex and human trafficking and other related offenses. In that capacity, I have participated in investigations involving the debriefing of sex trafficking and sex abuse victims, review of telephone records, cell site locations, and GPS, review money transfers and records, surveillance analysis of PIN registration information, and the execution of search warrants, including the execution of search warrants on computers and other electronic media. So I'm just going to stop right there. If this doesn't prove to you that every and anything you do can be monitored, and when you go out and you make threatening comments on these social media pages, this is evidence to prove to you that you can be touched. The only way that you're going to basically put yourself in a situation where you can't be monitored is, number one, you're going to have to stop using phones. And who in the world is going to do that? And then number two, you're going to have to use a mask every time you go outside your house because there's cameras everywhere. Who's going to live like Nobody's going to live like that. So everyone just has to accept the fact that we're living in a new age, and part of this new age means that any and everything you do can be monitored. There's no hiding. There is no trying to do stuff under the cover. That stuff is over. Those days are gone. Now, again, if you're smart enough, you can probably circumvent being monitored, but it's going to take an extreme amount of effort that no normal person is going to want to live like that. You would have to basically live as people lived in the 1800s, and you would also have to wear a mask and disguises. And again, who's going to live like that? Because again, when you go outside your house, there's going to be cameras, right? So if you say, you know what, I'm not going to use a computer at my house, I'm going to get rid of my internet connection, I'm not going to have a cell phone, I'm not going to post on social media, how in the world are you going to get a job? How in the, and if you're if you have your own business, how in the world are you going to conduct business? Because nobody's going to want to do business with you if you can't send an email and you can't send a text. So I don't know. I'm ready. I'm just throwing it out there. So again, I'm not going to go through all this indictment. Leave your questions and comments below if you want me to go through this indictment. Of course, a donation is always greatly appreciated. But the bottom line is they're accusing Michael Williams of burning up the car. They're also saying that Michael Williams is associated with Robert Sylvester Kelly, or R. Kelly. And because of that, so I think right here, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York and the HSI Network field officers are investigating Robert Sylvester Kelly, also known as R. Kelly, and others for their participation in a racketeering enterprise involving bribery, extortion, the production of child pornography, transportation of women and girls across state lines. So the problem with all of this is that they are basically trying to use these indictments to uphold the RICO charge and to keep the RICO charge back on the table. I've said over and over and over again that the RICO charge was absolutely nonsense, and it was just a way for them to bring old garbage in to this case so they can try him on old irrelevant stuff. But now it's going to be challenging, in my personal opinion. I'm not going to talk about this too much because these charges are going to allow them to accomplish two things. Number one, they're going to try to put the RICO charge back on the table, because now they're going to try to say, well, you wanted evidence of racketeering. Here is this evidence. This is what they're going to try to. I'm telling you, this is not my theory. I'm telling you, this is what they're going to try to do. So before any of this happened, they had nothing they could use to try to substantiate a RICO charge. Now they do, right? And before I even go even further, let me just go on to the next indictment. So the next indictment is for Richard Arline Jr., right? And basically, I'm just going to sum this up. I haven't gone through all of it. I'm just telling you up front, I haven't broken down this indictment. I can break this indictment down if you guys want to. Leave your questions, comments below. Leave a small donation. Again, Cash App, $ the non-lawyer. And I'll go through all these, right? And I'll give you my opinion, right? Now, Richard Arline Jr. is basically being accused of bribery. I did read the initial causes for the indictment on the Federal Department of Justice website, right? So basically, Richard Arline Jr. is being accused of bribing the witness, right? I believe it's Jane Doe, number one. Yeah, Jane Doe, number one, whom I believe is basically Azriel, right? And I think even as you read this, it'll become apparent that is Azriel, right? So apparently, he tried to bribe her with, I think, $500,000, and they're going to try to tie Richard Arline Jr. in with R. Kelly, and they're going to use this to basically hope for two things. Number one, they're trying to substantiate the RICO charge, and then number two, they're trying to prove this is evidence that R. Kelly should not be granted bail, right? So there it is. Moving on to the next indictment. The next indictment is basically Don Russell. Now, the thing with Don Russell is that, in my personal opinion, he started off with very good intentions, right? And I think some of the things he did was fair play. But what a lot of people don't realize is that this is a game. This is 100% a game. And when you play this game, you have to know all the possibilities and you have to know what are the limits. And I just think Don Russell simply overplayed his hand. He simply overplayed his hand. And let me explain why. Don Russell was trying to defend R. Kelly. And I believe this indictment is related to Faith Rogers. So when Faith Rogers filed the claim against R. Kelly, alleging all these things, Don Russell basically responded. And I'm summing this up, and these details may have not flown the way I'm describing it, and I may be jumbling up some things, but I'm just trying to sum it up to give you the big picture so we can move on. So when Faith Rogers filed these claims against R. Kelly, Don Russell basically took all the photos and videos that he had of Faith Rogers, or that possibly R. Kelly had. I don't know. I don't know who had them. But he compiled all this and he basically said, hey, look, this claim that you're filing is bogus. And if you continue with this claim, these videos and this photo is going to come to light. Now, if he had just simply stopped right there, in my opinion, it was fair game. Because essentially, if you make a sex tape with somebody and the sex tape is basically for you and her, and she didn't give up her rights to the sex tape, and she didn't authorize the sex tape to be shown to other people, then that sex tape is just between you and her, right? But if she later comes back and she files a lawsuit, then it's fair game for you to say, well, hey, look, you made a sex tape and now you're trying to say that, I did A, B, C, and D. You made this tape of your own free will, right? And the lawsuit may not even be about the sex tape. The lawsuit could be about an allegation that you raped her or that you gave her herpes or whatever. And then your response is going to be that, hey, you know what? You made this sex tape. This sex tape is evidence that you had consensual sex with me. This sex is evidence that you had casual sex with me. I'm not your husband. We weren't in a long-term committed relationship. So you were having casual sex and you knew you were having casual sex. Right? So it's fair game to say, for you to say to that person, hey, if you continue with this information is going to come out. This information is going to come out to the general public. I believe that's fair game. I believe that's fair game to warn the person that, this evidence is going to come out. Now, the problem with this, and I'll see if I can find the videos and I'll post it. The problem with this is that Don Russell posted this information to the public. And unless Faith Rogers or whomever that was gave explicit permission for Don Russell to post that information, then Don Russell has just committed an invasion of privacy, right? Don Russell has just committed several other torts that basically affected her privacy. False light, there's all of them out there. Just go and look at my page. I've done videos on invasion of privacy and false light, and you can get a general idea of what that was. But to make it worse, Don Russell continued to send her this media through text. He continued to send this media via email. He sent it to her family. So at this point, now Don Russell has committed another offense, which is basically stalking, because you're stalking a person and you're constantly spamming that person with, this media to basically harass them and to keep them from pursuing on with their claim. So That's why Don Russell was arrested. But again, I just want to say that it was fair game to initially send the media to her lawyer and send it to her and say, hey, look, if you continue with this lawsuit, this information is going to come out.